It's late. You're here because it's late, not just on the clock, but in your mind too. Maybe you've been staring at the ceiling, your thoughts looping the same reel again and again. A worry, a memory, a sentence you wish you could take back. Maybe your body feels exhausted, but your brain keeps buzzing. Or maybe something heavier is sitting on your chest. Tonight, the kind of weight that doesn't always have a name. You could be carrying grief, or living with trauma you can't explain out loud even to the people who love you. Maybe your mind won't quiet because of ADHD or chronic stress, or maybe it's just one of those nights where the silence gets too loud. If that's you, if you feel unseen, unslept, and a little unraveled, I'm glad you're here. There's nothing you need to do now. No expectations. No noise. Let's leave this place behind for a while. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Imagine this, a wind that doesn't blow, it sighs. A sea so dark, it doesn't have a color. Just a feeling, like velvet soaked in ink. There's no moonrise, no sunrise. Only the same silver glow that doesn't move. Time doesn't count out here. It just floats. You are floating too, somewhere between dream and memory. You wake to the sound of rope creaking. Not tight, not panic, just old, familiar. The sway of wood beneath your body tells you you're on a ship. You taste salt at the corner of your mouth. Your hands are loosely bound, not cruelly, as if no one's really watching anymore. Above you, torn canvas stretches across masts like tired wings. Somewhere, water slaps against the hull. A seabird cries in the distance. Or maybe it's just the ship groaning under its own weight. You try to remember how you got here. Captured, maybe. Owed someone something. Or maybe you just climbed aboard without thinking because there was nowhere else to go. But the reason doesn't matter anymore. Not out here. Out here, you're just one more name no one needs to say. A set of footsteps no one notices. One pair of lungs breathing among many. And in some way, maybe that's a relief. Maybe it's a little like how you feel in the real world right now. Like you're still standing, but not quite present. This is your place for the night. Not to fight, not to fix anything, just to be. If this quiet moment brings even the smallest comfort, you can tap, like, or subscribe. Only if it helps you feel a little less alone. There's no rush. Take a breath. Where are you right now? What time is it? Are you curled beneath a blanket or sitting with your back against a wall in the dark? Is the room quiet, or are there sounds just outside your window, gently reminding you that life is still out there, just slower now? Wherever you are, you're allowed to rest. You don't have to be anyone tonight. If you can turn off the lights, turn on a fan if you like that soft hum. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Release your hands. You don't have to sleep yet. But maybe you can stop trying so hard to stay awake. You're not broken. You're just tired. And tonight we're going to walk through someone else's tiredness. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the bone-deep weariness of a young soldier in a strange, hot place, far from home in a war he didn't start and doesn't understand. Not a hero, not a villain, just a body in boots trying to make it through the day. Let's begin tonight's journey. Section 1. Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something that might sound relaxing on the surface, but don't be fooled. We're dropping into the Vietnamese jungle sometime in the late 1960s, in the boots of a young U.S. soldier who hasn't slept properly in 4 weeks and just wants to go home. It's humid. Everything smells like rust, mildew, and nervous sweat. You wake up not because you're rested, but because someone kicked the sole of your foot and muttered something about patrol rotations. You're not even fully awake, but your body is already sore. Your face is damp and sticky, and the thin blanket you somehow ended up with is twisted around your legs like it's trying to hang on for dear life. You don't get to stretch. You don't get coffee first. You definitely don't get a snooze button. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from. Your city, your country, your time zone. 3 a.m. in Detroit, midnight in Manila. I'd love to know. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're lying in what might generously be called a tent, except it's just 2 ponchos and a lot of hope. One corner droops slightly because the stick anchoring it is definitely not regulation and definitely stolen from a nearby tree. You shift carefully, trying not to jostle your gear. You've learned that if you lose one sock in this mess, it's basically a war crime against your own feet. The air is thick with insects and unfinished thoughts. Someone nearby is already up and clattering around, probably Jenkins, who manages to be both overeager and half asleep at the same time. You sit up slowly and your knees crack. That's not a metaphor, they actually crack. You're 20-something and you feel 90. The dampness in your boots makes a quiet squish as you shift. That squish, that's your constant companion. Outside, the sun hasn't quite risen, but the sky is turning that weird gray color it gets before it decides if it wants to burn you alive or drown you. Your rifle is there, of course. You sleep with it like it's a clingy ex. It never leaves your side. Not because you love it, but because you're terrified of what might happen if it's not there when you reach for it. And so you do what every soldier here does. You start moving before your brain has caught up. You trudge out into the clearing. If clearing means patch of ground slightly less infested with foliage, and join the line for the morning check-in. The sergeant is already yelling, not urgently, not aggressively, just constantly. It's his tone now, permanent, like a setting on a machine that no one knows how to turn off. Someone jokes about the mud having better aim than half the platoon. Someone else chuckles too hard, like they're trying to prove they still remember how. Historians still argue whether the psychological toll of this war was shaped more by fear of combat or the sheer weight of waiting for it. You're pretty sure it's the waiting, the creeping feeling that something is always about to happen. That's the hardest part to explain to people back home. It's not that you're always fighting. It's that you never know when you will, and that tension wears you down like water on stone. You get handed a tin of something that once resembled eggs, but now looks like regret. Your stomach gurgles, not in hunger, more like protest. Still you eat. You always eat. You're not picky anymore. You take your coffee, if you can call it that, from a packet. The water is lukewarm. You stare at it and wonder briefly if this is what betrayal tastes like. As you sip, you watch steam or maybe mist curl through the air. It drifts around everyone's shoulders like ghost fingers. That's how it always is here, half visible things, half heard voices, and half truths passed down the chain of command. There's a lot of talk about what comes next today. Some say a recon sweep. Others say maybe they'll stay in place and dig in deeper. The truth, no one knows. Even the officers seem like they're waiting for someone else to tell them what to do. The jungle doesn't wait, though. Already it buzzes and hums like it's alive, watching. And maybe it is. You're not sure anymore. You've seen vines twist overnight, and trees that seem to move closer. It's like the plants are conspiring. Fun fact, some units used hairspray on their boots to try and prevent leeches from crawling up. Didn't work, but they kept trying. Soldiers are nothing, if not persistent and mildly desperate. You check your gear one more time. Helmet, canteen, dog tags, picture from home creased at the corners, slightly faded. She's smiling in that photo. You try to remember what that day smelled like, what her voice sounded like. But it's already slipping. A bird screams in the distance. Or maybe it's a monkey. Maybe it's something else entirely. You don't ask anymore. You just accept it. And then the sergeant's voice cuts through time to move. So you tighten your laces, adjust your pack, and follow the boots in front of you, into the mud, into the green, into whatever version of morning this is supposed to be. Section 2. You follow the others, one step at a time, through jungle, so thick it feels like a maze that grew teeth. Branches catch on your sleeves, vines tug at your gear, and every few minutes someone curses under their breath, not loud enough to carry, but loud enough to be shared pain. You can't raise your voice out here. Noise travels, and not just to animals. The path is barely a path. It's more like a suggestion. The mud pulls at your boots with every step, like it's trying to claim you for itself. You wonder if it's the same mud every day or if it regenerates overnight like a swampy video game boss with unlimited lives. Probably the second one. Someone up ahead stumbles. Jenkins again. His foot sinks knee-deep into a hole that wasn't there yesterday. Or maybe it was, and the jungle just chose today to reveal it. Either way, he grunts and pulls himself out with a wet squelch that sounds like a boot being chewed on. You keep walking. You can't stop, because stopping invites everything else to catch up. The heat, the fear, the aching weight of your pack that seems to grow heavier every minute. It's not that the pack got heavier. You just got a little more tired. You're always a little more tired. By now, the sun has decided what kind of day it wants to be. Ruthless. You feel it baking the back of your neck, and sweat gathers in uncomfortable places between your shoulder blades, under your helmet, inside your socks. You stopped being embarrassed by it a long time ago. Everyone smells like defeat anyway. The guy in front of you has a patch on his sleeve that's nearly falling off. You stare at it for longer than you should, just to avoid looking ahead. One foot in front of the other, that's the game. Keep moving. Don't think about the booby traps. Don't think about the fact that one step to the left could be your last. Historians still argue whether the majority of casualties in Vietnam came from actual firefights or from mines traps and friendly fire. You don't argue. You just assume every bush is out to get you and act accordingly. There's a sound behind you, a click, a branch. Your heart jumps before your brain can decide. But then someone sneezes, and the moment passes. False alarm. But your shoulders don't relax. They rarely do anymore. You've been marching for maybe an hour or 5. Time doesn't mean anything here. The jungle doesn't care about your watch. You reach a break in the trees and pause, grateful for even a sliver of open sky. There's a clearing ahead, or something like it, flattened grass, no cover, probably the worst place to stop. So, naturally, that's where the sergeant decides you'll have your morning standby. You crouch, not quite sitting, because the ground is soaked and probably home to a dozen insects with names you'll never learn. Your thighs burn, but you hold the position. You've learned that just a minute usually means 20 or 40, or until someone remembers you're still there. You pull out your canteen. The water is warm and faintly metallic. It tastes like desperation, an army issue. You drink anyway, because dehydration is worse than bad flavor. Then you take your helmet off and fan yourself with one hand while keeping your ears sharp. That's the weirdest thing you learn to split yourself. One half listening, one half shutting down. You scan the tree line. Nothing moves, but you still watch it like it might blink. You've heard stories. We all have. Stories of whole squads disappearing, of footsteps in the night that didn't belong, of eyes in the dark that didn't show up on any report. Fun fact, some troops swore they saw ghosts in the jungle. Real ones. Not just the usual wartime hallucinations, but honest-to-God phantoms. French soldiers, barefoot women, kids holding lanterns. Historians chalk it up to exhaustion and stress. But still, some guys never went near certain parts of the forest again. The sergeant signals, and you rise like an old man with bad knees. The march resumes, and the joke someone made earlier starts circling your brain. We're not going anywhere fast. True enough. You're moving constantly, but going nowhere. Like a treadmill made of mud and mosquitoes. A helicopter thunders by overhead. You glance up out of instinct, shielding your eyes. It's American. You can tell by the sound. The dull, rhythmic thump that drills into your skull like a second heartbeat. You wave, even though no one in the chopper will see you. It's not about being seen. It's about remembering you exist. The chopper disappears behind a ridge and you're left with the buzz of insects again. The world shrinks back down to the immediate, your steps, your breath, the smell of someone's socks, 2 bodies up the line. You remember once before deployment hearing someone say the jungle was beautiful, maybe in another life. In this one, it's a green cage with no exit. Everything is either too loud or too quiet, and neither is ever good. You cross a stream. It's shallow, but the current tugs at your boots like a warning. You step on a slippery rock and catch yourself just in time. Behind you, someone mutters, "Nice one," and you both pretend it was funny. There's a sudden rustling in the trees. Everyone freezes. Safety clicks off. Breaths are held. You grip your weapon, already sweating more than before. A bird bursts from the branches and flaps off into the sky. Laughter follows, not real laughter, more like nervous release. You join in, not because it's funny, but because it's either laugh or scream. The march resumes slower now, more cautious. Every leaf becomes a suspect. Every shadow feels like it knows your name. You reach another thicket and push through branches, snapping back like whips. There's a mark on your cheek now. You don't feel it. You won't notice until later, when you see the dry blood crusted over, like it's always been there. Ahead, someone signals a break again. You slide down against a tree, careful not to lean into anything that crawls. You exhale, letting your muscles sag just a little. The jungle sighs with you. Or maybe at you, hard to tell. No one talks, not because they're tired, but because there's nothing left to say that hasn't already been whispered 1,000 times. You close your eyes, just for a second, just until the sergeant shouts again. Section 3. The break doesn't last long. It never does. You barely have time to shift your weight before the sergeant waves you forward again, and the shuffle resumes. You're not even sure why you stopped. Was it to regroup, rehydrate, pretend that resting would make a difference? No one explains, and you don't ask. The path narrows. Trees press in from both sides. You have to turn your shoulders to squeeze through in some places. Branches brushing your arms like fingers testing for weakness. The air feels thicker here, like soup left out too long. Sweat trickles down your back in thin, persistent rivers. You gave up wiping it away hours ago. Your helmet is beginning to feel like a slow-motion vice. Every breath is hot. Your hands smell like old leather, damp socks, and metal. You shift your grip on your rifle again, trying to relieve a cramp in your palm, but it's no use. The ache is permanent now. You've just accepted it, like the bugs, the mud, and the constant feeling of being slightly too late for something important. You hear the buzzing first, not from insects this time, but the radio. Static, then a clipped voice reading coordinates. You can't understand most of it. The guy carrying the radio always acts like he's deciphering the Rosetta Stone every time he speaks. He makes eye contact with the lieutenant, who looks annoyed and nods like he'll do something about it. He probably won't. Historians still argue whether field communications in Vietnam were truly more advanced than those in World War II. Technically, they were, but that doesn't help you when the trees are interfering with the signal, and the guy next to you thinks perimeter sweep means walk in circles until someone gets bored. You push forward anyway, ducking under a low-hanging branch that smacks Jenkins in the forehead. He grunts, but doesn't curse. Progress. You catch a glimpse of something glinting in the undergrowth and freeze. You're not sure why. Training instinct. It's just a tin can half buried. But even that makes your chest tighten for a second. Because the jungle loves camouflage, and sometimes the worst things look the most ordinary. A few steps later, you hear a faint metallic clink. Your heart skips. But it's just someone adjusting a belt buckle. You exhale so hard, your shoulders drop an inch. Up ahead, someone motions for a halt again. You crouch, rifle at the ready, eyes scanning the brush like you might suddenly gain X-ray vision if you squint hard enough. Nothing. Just the gentle rustle of wind in the leaves and the chirp of birds that always sound too cheerful for this place. And then laughter. Quiet. Short. Someone found a half-eaten candy bar in their pack and offered it around like its sacred relic. You shake your head, but accept a piece. It's stale and slightly melted, but it tastes like a memory. For a second, you're 12 again, sneaking snacks during detention. You let the chocolate melt in your mouth, slow and deliberate. That's the secret here, finding ways to stretch pleasure. A sip of clean water, a dry sock, a quiet moment. They're rare. You learn to savor them like treasure. One guy pulls out a deck of cards. No one plays. They just flip through them, like looking at symbols of a different life. Hearts, diamonds, queens with perfect eyeliner. It feels ancient, out of place. Someone mentions home. Just one word, home. No details, no stories. Just enough to hang in the air. You don't say anything, but you think about your room, your bed, the smell of your pillow. You haven't remembered that in days. Fun fact, some soldiers used to spray their pillowcases with perfume from their partners before deployment. Others carried locks of hair or small letters, folded so many times they were nearly illegible. You don't have perfume, but you still have that photo. The edges are curling now, but the smile hasn't faded. Not yet. The break ends. The sergeant does his signature grunt and head tilt, which apparently means, let's go, you sorry excuses for soldiers. You rise. Your legs complain. Your feet feel like clay bricks. You adjust your helmet, adjust your grip, and keep moving. The trail now slopes upward, slightly, but enough to make your thighs burn with every step. The ground here is slick, and you nearly lose your footing on a moss-covered rock. Jenkins grabs your arm, steadying you without comment. You nod your thanks. He nods back. Nothing more needs to be said. You crest the hill, and there it is a view. Actual open space. Trees give way to a ridge overlooking a stretch of dense green that seems to go on forever. It's quiet, peaceful, even. You pause, letting yourself feel that silence. You'd cry if you weren't already dehydrated. Below, a river snakes through the jungle like a silver thread pulled tight. It looks almost painted, unreal. For a moment, you forget the war, the noise, the waiting, everything. Then the lieutenant starts pointing at the map again, and the moment's gone. You descend the other side of the ridge, slower now, careful not to twist anything. One guy behind you slips and lets out a noise that's somewhere between a laugh and a scream. You wince. The jungle hears everything. At the bottom, there's more undergrowth, more humidity, more of that sweet, sweet smell of rotting vegetation that clings to your clothes like a bad decision. You press on brushing leaves away from your face with the flat of your hand. Suddenly the guy, 2 paces ahead, stops and raises a fist. Everyone freezes. You don't breathe. You grip your rifle and wait. Silence. Then a rustle. Then nothing. You stay frozen for 20 seconds, maybe more, until the sergeant waves you forward again, grumbling something about false alarms and jumpy nerves. You don't relax, you just walk again. And as you do, you wonder, what exactly are we looking for out here? You don't know. But maybe it doesn't matter. Because sometimes the point isn't finding anything, it's just surviving long enough to stop looking. Section 4. The jungle closes in again like it's trying to erase the trail behind you. If you turned around now, you might not find your way back. Not that you'd try. Back doesn't exist anymore. There's only forward, and even that feels questionable. The sun is directly overhead now, stabbing through gaps in the canopy, in thin, punishing shafts. Every one of them seems aimed directly at your eyes. You tilt your helmet forward, squinting under the brim, but the glare still finds you. Your shirt clings to your back like it's trying to escape the heat by fusing with your skin. Someone coughs behind you. Dry and hacking, the kind of cough that comes from weeks of breathing damp dust, smoke, and whatever else floats through this air. You hear someone pass a canteen. You hear the grateful sound of swallowing. You don't ask for a sip. You've still got your own. And rationing is more habit than necessity now. Ahead, the lieutenant stops walking and consults his map again. The map, of course, is mostly guesswork. Rain smeared one corner last week. Another got torn when Jenkins fell on it. Still, he frowns at it like it's a puzzle he can solve by sheer irritation. You wait, shifting your weight from foot to foot, trying to ease the pressure points without drawing attention. Historians still argue whether platoon leaders in Vietnam had enough real-time intel to make field decisions, or whether most movement was just educated guesswork backed by habit and prayer. Based on the lieutenant's face, you vote for guesswork. Eventually, he signals a new direction. Not the one you hoped for. A thicker patch of jungle looms ahead. Darker, wetter, the kind of place where sound changes, dampened, distorted. You step into it like you're walking into someone's lungs. The air is suddenly cooler, but not in a good way. More like refrigerated dread. It's not long before you feel it, the shift in your own head. The silence here is heavy, not peaceful, not empty, just full of watching things. You can't see them, but they're here. You'd bet your last dry sock on it. You pass a tree with deep scratches down one side. Too high to be natural, too shallow to be from a machete. No one mentions it, but everyone sees it. Your breathing slows. You didn't tell it to. It just does, automatically. Because this is the part of the day where you go invisible as much as possible. No sudden moves, no loud steps. You walk like a shadow wearing combat boots. Then the smell hits. Sweet, rancid, like spoiled fruit and something metallic. You know what that is. Everyone does, but no one says it. Instead, the formation tightens, and you keep moving, like you didn't just walk through someone else's final story. You come across a makeshift marker, 3 sticks, tied in a triangle. You've seen these before. Not official, not in any manual, but someone placed it there for a reason. A warning, maybe. A memorial. Could be either, could be both. You give it a respectful nod as you pass. You don't know who it was for, but they deserve the gesture. You walk for another hour without incident, which is worse than having one, because the tension stacks, layer after layer. You start hearing things, not loud, not clear, just off, like distant murmurs under the buzz of insects, like your own name spoken too softly, to be sure. Fun fact, there are recorded cases of soldiers developing jungle psychosis, a temporary state of paranoia and hallucination brought on by prolonged sensory stress. Some say it was heat stroke. Others say it was the land itself pushing back. You stop thinking about it, or you try. Eventually, the trail bends and opens into another small clearing. There's a rusted-out tank in the middle. Not American, not recent. Overgrown with vines and partially sunk into the earth like a fossil. You stare at it for a long moment. You can't tell if it's tragic or funny. Maybe both. Someone mutters a joke. At least it's not firing back. No one laughs. But the silence feels lighter afterward. That's how humor works here. Not to amuse, just to reset the pressure. You sit for a while near the tank, using its shady side as cover. You take off your helmet and wipe your forehead with your sleeve. The sweat smears, doesn't absorb. You glance at your reflection in a puddle near your boot. You look older. Not in years, in hours. The lieutenant says something about pushing another 2 clicks before nightfall. You nod even though you hate the idea. No one wants to sleep in this clearing. Too open. Too many ghosts. You reload your weapon slowly, more from habit than need. Then you check your canteen again. Still half full. Good. Hydration is the only thing keeping your legs from becoming decorative stumps. You feel something tickle your ankle and look down just in time to see a fat red ant crawl into your boot. You sigh, not because it hurts, not yet, but because you know what comes next. You take the boot off, shake it. 3 ants fall out. You put it back on and don't say a word. Everyone's got their version of that story. The march resumes. You skirt the edge of the clearing and slip back into the jungle's green mouth. It feels like being swallowed. Again. The trail narrows and darkens once more. The guy in front of you starts humming, not loudly, just enough that you catch the tune. You think it's a Beach Boys song. It doesn't belong here. That's why it helps. Music, memory, motion. That's how you keep going. You don't think in hours or miles. You think in verses, choruses, refrains that repeat just enough to keep your brain occupied. You wonder what she's listening to back home, if she still plays that record you bought together, if she hears the songs the way you do now, through static and rain and the hush of dangerous places. Eventually, the humming stops. The path flattens again. You reach a stretch of ground that looks like it was cleared by something, maybe a patrol, maybe an explosion. Hard to tell. Everything here gets reclaimed so quickly. The sergeant signals to slow down. You move with exaggerated care, eyes scanning every patch of earth for signs of wires, sticks, unnatural symmetry. You've learned the difference, mostly. You make it through without incident. This time. But your heart is still hammering like it forgot the dangers past. You breathe. You blink. You walk. And you try not to think about how much more of this day is still left. Section 5. It's strange how quickly your world can shrink. Right now it's no bigger than the pair of socks you packed at the bottom of your rucksack. They're your last clean ones, or at least your least dirty ones, and you've been saving them like they're fine china. You think about them constantly. Not because you're vain, not even because you're cold, but because dry feet mean survival and a tiny, secret kind of joy. The ground beneath you is soft again, too soft. You test every step like you're walking across wet paper. The mud here seems to have a personal vendetta. It doesn't just pull you, swear it climbs, trying to crawl up your legs and drag you back into the earth. Every boot step feels like a negotiation with nature, and nature keeps raising the price. You come to a narrow stream again. This one looks calm, but you've seen calm lie before. Jenkins steps in first. His boot sinks 3 inches, but it holds. That's good enough for everyone else. You follow, focusing on your balance like your life depends on it, because sometimes it does. Historians still argue whether the constant foot infections and trench foot were truly avoidable or just inevitable in this environment. The Army issued instructions, but instructions don't dry socks. You know better. You know what rot smells like, and you've smelled it too many times this month, alone. Once across, you take a moment, just a second. You pull your pack around, unzip the hidden flap, and there they are. Your socks. Rolled tight, mostly intact. The holy grail of the jungle. You don't change into them yet. Not until you know you'll have at least an hour to enjoy them. But just seeing them calms you, gives you something to believe in. You sling the pack back and move on. The guy next to you grunts, adjusting his gear. He's got a piece of tape holding one strap together. Everyone's kit is in some state of disrepair, yours included. You've become masters of improvisation gum for sealing cracks, bits of wire, for buttons, old ammo casings, for makeshift hooks. Someone once made a toothbrush out of a spent cartridge and a shaving brush. It barely worked, but it made him feel human. That's what this place takes from you. First, the idea that you're still a person. So you build it back one weird solution at a time. Ahead, the trail widens into what looks like an abandoned animal path. There are hoof prints, maybe pig, maybe something wilder. The jungle hums a little louder here. More frogs, more buzzing, more things with wings. You slap something off your neck and keep moving. Your shirt is soaked through, not just with sweat now, but with the condensation from brushing against plants taller than you. Every leaf deposits a cold reminder of last night's rain, or the night before's. Who can tell? The days bleed together. You stumble on a root, catch yourself, mutter something under your breath. No one notices. Everyone's in their own head. The sergeant calls a halt, and you're grateful. You lower yourself down beside a fallen tree and stretch your legs, ignoring the way your knees pop like old furniture. You consider the socks again. But no, still too soon. Instead, you take out a ration bar and break it in half. You offer the other piece to Jenkins, who takes it without comment. That's thanks out here. Silence, but with eye contact, you chew slowly. The bar tastes like compressed oatmeal and regret, but it's got calories, and that's what counts. You sip from your canteen. It tastes like metal. Everything does. The guy across from you pulls out a small notebook. Not regulation. It's got drawings in it. Little sketches of faces, trees, animals. Not good ones, but honest ones. You watch him shade in a new line with a stubby pencil, and for a moment, the world feels quiet. Fun fact, many soldiers kept sketchbooks, not just for art, but to map their emotions, track their days, even plan imaginary futures. Some of those books ended up in museums. Others got left behind in the mud. You close your eyes for a second, not to sleep, just to disappear. Just to let the darkness behind your eyelids replace the green and brown and wet and buzzing. And then the word comes, move. You rise. Shoulders complain. Back cracks. You adjust your gear again and fall in line. The march resumes. You pass a tree that's been painted with a strange symbol, not by Americans, not recently. It's a red swirl with lines that trail down like legs. Could be tribal, could be a prank, could be a warning. No one touches it. Your stomach rumbles. You're not hungry. You're just bored of the same tastes. You remember hamburgers, French fries, milkshakes, ice clinking in a glass. That memory hurts more than you expect. You check the photo in your pocket again. It's still there, still smiling, still slightly faded. You wonder what she'd say if she saw you now. Would she cry? Would she laugh? Would she even recognize you? You press forward boots, sucking at the ground with every step. The sun starts to lower finally. Not much, but enough that the shadows grow a little longer. The green darkens. The air thickens. You smell something burning, probably distant, probably someone else's fire. But it sets your nerves on edge anyway. Historians still argue whether smell memory is stronger than visual memory in trauma survivors. You'd say yes. One whiff of diesel and sweat, and you're back in this jungle. Forever. You cross another small clearing and see the sergeant talking to the radio guy. Their faces are tight. Something's wrong. Probably nothing urgent, but probably something annoying. That's usually worse. The lieutenant walks over. He frowns, then shrugs, then points south. More walking, because of course. You sigh. Your whole body sighs. You adjust your straps again and follow. And just before you step into the brush, you think about the socks. Still dry. Still waiting. Maybe tomorrow. Section 6. The jungle is louder now. Not with movement, not with danger. Just sound. Insects, always insects. Whining, chirping, humming. They create a kind of symphony that loops endlessly like a broken music box stuck on the same eerie tune. At first you tried to block it out. Now you just live inside it. You wipe your face again, but your hand comes away dirtier. There's no winning here. You're a sponge for sweat, mud, smoke, and rain. You gave up trying to stay clean somewhere around week 2. Now you measure progress by how little you stink compared to the guy next to you. Up ahead, someone starts talking. Not loud, just enough to hear. He's listing off fast food joints, back home stuff, burger chains, drive-thrus, milkshake flavors. It's torture and comfort at the same time. You let it happen. You even add to it curly fries, strawberry shakes, double bacon, anything. The list becomes a kind of prayer. You reach a small ridge and take it slow. The incline isn't steep, but your legs complain anyway. Your knees crack like dry branches. Jenkins slips again. This time, he laughs before anyone else can. No one joins in. Laughter uses too much energy. At the top, you see it another endless green stretch. Trees upon trees, layered like stage curtains, each one a slightly different shade. You wonder how many are watching. How many eyes, animal or human, are hidden in that leafy maze. Historians still argue whether the jungle favored the locals simply because they knew it better, or if the terrain itself resented invaders. Either way, you've stopped expecting fairness. You expect only what the jungle wants to give, usually sweat, mud, and confusion. You check your compass, not because you doubt the direction, just because it feels like doing something. The needle spins slightly before settling. Northish. Good enough. The march resumes. You step carefully over a twisted route that looks exactly like a snake. Or maybe it is a snake. You don't look back to check. A soft mechanical hum grows in the distance. Helicopter. You pause squinting through the trees. It's low heading somewhere else. You hope that somewhere else is safer, quieter, cleaner. You hope it's not another medevac. But that hope feels hollow. Fun fact, the UH-1 Huey became one of the most iconic symbols of the Vietnam War. Its sound, chop, 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 became the background noise of life and death. Soldiers joked that the war had a soundtrack and it was the Huey on loop. The chopper disappears and the bugs reclaim the airspace. You keep walking. You hear a rustle off to the side. Everyone stops. Safety clicks off. Hearts accelerate. You drop to one knee, scanning the foliage. A second passes, then 5. A lizard skitters into view. Everyone exhales. Weapons lower. No jokes this time. You move again, but slower now. Every branch could hide a wire. Every log could be hollowed for a trap. You watch the ground like it holds a secret it's dying to tell. Eventually the trees open just enough to let in a slice of sky. You pause. Not for beauty, but for bearings. You tilt your head back and feel the sun on your face, filtered, muted, but real. It's the only reminder that time still exists. Someone behind you sneezes, loud. The sergeant turns, says nothing, but his face does. You reach a wide patch of grass. Looks soft, looks nice. Probably hiding something. You go around it. Always go around the nice parts. You find yourself humming again. A tune from nowhere. Something your dad played on the radio. Maybe. You don't remember the name. Doesn't matter. The rhythm is what counts. Jenkins starts humming too. Not the same song, just noise. You both walk in time. No words. Just two ghosts echoing half-remembered melodies into the heat. Then it happens. A loud snap to your left. You hit the ground before thinking. Silence. Then a squirrel darts out, leaping between branches like it's chasing a paycheck. Laughter. Nervous. Thin. You stay on the ground a beat longer than necessary. Your cheek presses into the damp earth. You close your eyes and listen to the heartbeat in your ears. It's fast, but slowing. You get up, shake it off, keep moving. The jungle narrows again. The trees here are gnarled, twisted, ancient. Moss clings to everything like old regrets. You push through branches that leave faint welts on your arms. You don't mind. Pain is proof you're still here. You cross a log bridge over a ditch. It wobbles under your weight. You think about falling. You think about staying down. But you keep going. The ditch smells like rot, not death, just time. Like the world is composting itself one layer at a time. On the other side, you regroup. The sergeant checks his watch. It's cracked. He still wears it like it matters. You're told there's another checkpoint up ahead, probably abandoned. Maybe not. You tighten your grip on your weapon. Your pack shifts. You rebalance. You think about dinner. Not real dinner. Just whatever ration box you'll get. Maybe beans. Maybe mystery meat. Maybe that Orange powder they call cheese, but tastes like chalk and lies. You'll eat it anyway. You always do. You're thinking about dinner when you see it, a small footpath veering left. Not on the map, not official, but walked often enough to be real. The lieutenant hesitates. The sergeant says nothing. Then they nod. Left it is. You step onto the path and feel the mood shift again. Quieter, tighter, like stepping into someone's secret. You walk slower. Your breath shortens. And for a moment you forget you're tired. You forget the socks. You forget home. You are only feet and breath and forward. Section 7. The path narrows to barely more than a trail, carved by boots and guesses. Every step feels like you're tracing someone else's ghost. The undergrowth here is taller, thicker, more insistent leaves, brushing your cheeks' vines, grabbing at your elbows like they want to stop you. The sun vanishes completely, swallowed by the canopy. You could be in a tunnel made of green and shadow. You slow down, not from caution, but because the air itself seems thicker. You breathe through your mouth now, not by choice. It's the only way to avoid the bitter rot that clings to every inch of this jungle. Something sweet, something sour, something old. It's all tangled together in a scent you'll never forget, even if you live another 50 years. You can feel your heartbeat in your fingertips. Not from fear exactly, but from the way your body always seems half convinced something is watching. Not just the enemy, the place, the vines, the bugs, the silence. It's as if the jungle itself is alive and not particularly interested in letting you out again. Jenkins whispers something about déjà vu. You nod. You've seen this route before. That twisted tree. That vine hanging low like a rope. You know you haven't, but your brain disagrees. This place messes with memory. Historians still argue whether the disorientation soldiers described here was psychological or biological. Maybe it was both. Maybe it doesn't matter. You wipe your brow again. Your sleeve comes away streaked with grime. You gave up feeling gross. That part of your brain retired sometime during week 1. Now it's all about function. If it doesn't itch, burn, or bleed, it's fine. You hear movement ahead. Everyone freezes. The kind of stillness that hums in your bones. A shape crosses the trail, just a blur. Could have been an animal. Could have been something else. The jungle doesn't offer explanations. Weapons up. Silence. A bird calls out a shriek so human, it makes your stomach twist. You exhale. Someone mutters, "They train the birds here to mess with us." He's joking. Probably. You walk again. Slower. The path twists left and right, then left again, like it's trying to get lost on purpose. You stop trying to guess where you're going. You just follow the boots in front of you. You step over another log, rotten through. It crumbles slightly beneath your heel, and the smell that bursts from it is worse than anything you've smelled in days. Like death in compost. You gag, then keep walking. You spot something glittering to your right. Not gold, not metal. just a water droplet catching a shaft of stray light. For a moment, it looks like a diamond. Then the light shifts, and it's gone. You hear the sergeant whisper into the radio. Static. More static. Then a few words in a clipped voice. Coordinates. Orders. No context. You don't ask. You don't care. You just want the day to end. Fun fact, the average infantryman in Vietnam carried between 60 and 70 pounds of gear on patrol. That's like wearing a small adult human while trekking through a greenhouse filled with anxiety. Your back agrees. You roll your shoulders. They crack again. You're a symphony of minor pain. Then laughter. Soft. Unnatural. Not yours. You freeze. So does Jenkins. So does everyone. No one moves. You listen. Silence, then birds again. Nothing else. Maybe the jungle laughs too. Eventually, the trail ends at a clearing. Not a big one. Just enough space for you all to crouch in a semicircle. The light here is soft, filtered through layers of green. You sit. Not because you're told to, but because if you don't sit, you might fall. You stretch out your legs and immediately regret it. Your calves seize like angry ropes. You rub them until the cramps fade. You reach for your canteen again. 1 gulp. 2. Warm water. Metallic tang. Salvation. Jenkins pulls out a pack of gum. Offers you a piece. You take it. Spearmint. Faint. Faded, but miraculous. You chew slowly. You make it last. The sergeant says they're checking maps again. Possible redirect. Possible bunker up. You tune out the details. You look at your boots. Caked in dried mud flecked with green, the laces stiff and fraying. You remember shining them in basic. That feels like it happened to someone else. You glance at your socks. Still dry. Still sacred. But you don't change yet. Still too early. You hear someone near you whispering. Not words. Just a rhythm. Could be prayer. Could be a song. Could be the beginning of a breakdown. You don't ask. You let your head tilt back and close your eyes. You breathe. You think of her again. What she's doing now. What she'd say if she saw you. She'd probably laugh at your smell or cry at your eyes. You don't know which hurts more. The wind shifts. A cool breeze filters through the trees. A gift. You take it. You feel the tension leave your shoulders. Just a little. You hear the sergeant say, 10 minutes. You make those 10 minutes last forever. You don't talk. You just are. You don't have to think. You don't have to plan. You just breathe. And in that moment, under that broken sky, with your back against a tree and gum in your mouth, you almost feel human again. Section 8. You don't want to get up, but you do, because you have to. That's the rule here. You get up when they tell you. You walk when they tell you. You stop when they say, stop, even if you don't know why. Especially when you don't know why. The sergeant gives the signal. A finger twitched toward the trees. Time to move again. You stretch once quickly, then hoist your pack onto sore shoulders. The gum in your mouth is flavorless now, but you keep chewing. It gives your jaw something to do, and that's enough. The trail out of the clearing is narrow and damp. Leaves slap your face. Small bugs crawl across your sleeves. You ignore them. Your skin's numb to it all now. You're so used to movement that stillness feels foreign, and so used to discomfort that comfort feels suspicious. The air is cooler slightly. You think it might rain again, or maybe it just rained recently. It's hard to tell here. Everything is always wet, always on the edge of storm. Jenkins whispers behind you. He says he heard something. You ask what? He doesn't know. That's the kind of thing people say now. I heard something. Not because they want answers, just because it breaks the silence. And the silence is heavy. You pass a stump, half rotted. It looks like it was blown apart once. Shrapnel still stuck in the bark. You wonder if someone died here. Probably. No one marks those places. There are too many. Historians still argue whether field soldiers became desensitized by necessity or by choice. You think it's neither. You think it's biology, a defense system, something in your brain that flips a switch and stops you from caring too much. You don't stop feeling. You just stop reacting. You duck under a fallen branch. It's slick with moss. Jenkins doesn't duck fast enough and scrapes his helmet. The sound is sharp, too loud. Everyone flinches. Then, silence again. Your breath evens out. You listen for birds, for anything. Nothing. You move forward. The path dips. Your knees groan. A root catches your foot, and you stumble. You don't fall. You never do. Not now. Falling is a luxury. You reach a ridge not high but steep. The incline burns your thighs. You grip the earth with your fingers, clawing upward, trying not to let your pack pull you backward. At the top, you rest. You sit against a rock, rough and warm. You check your socks again. Still dry. Still there. You're tempted, but not yet. The view is the same. Endless green, trees stretching into haze. It would be beautiful if it weren't trying to kill you. Fun fact, there are over 16,000 plant species in Vietnam. Some can heal, some can poison. Most just stand there, waiting for someone to lean on them wrong. You don't trust plants anymore. You shift, adjust your gear. Jenkins hands you a cracker. It's stale. You eat it anyway. Crumbs fall onto your lap. You brush them away, then laugh quietly because why bother? The jungle will eat them. It eats everything. You think about home. Not her this time. Just the concept. The door to your room. The sound your fridge makes. The dull buzz of streetlights. The things that mean not here. You close your eyes. You're there for a second. Then the sergeant coughs, and it's gone. He says something about a rest point up ahead. An old hut. Abandoned. Maybe. The lieutenant squints at the map. the map that lies. You start walking again. The terrain flattens. You pass a field of low ferns every step, releasing a green, peppery scent. It makes you sneeze. You hear something to the right. A voice. No. A monkey. Maybe. You don't turn to look. You keep walking. You spot movement ahead. Everyone freezes, then relaxes. Just a water buffalo, wild or half wild. It stares at you with slow eyes. You stare back for a second. You envy it. Then you keep walking. The hut appears low, half collapsed, swallowed by vines. You approach carefully, weapons up. The sergeant gestures. Jenkins steps forward, slow, cautious. Nothing stirs. You enter. It's dark. Smells like mold and ash. Rotted bedding in one corner. A few rusted cans. A boot with no foot in it. You don't touch anything. You sit. You listen. You breathe. The sergeant says, 15 minutes. You take off your helmet. You run a hand through your hair. It's greasy, tangled. You don't care. You pull off one boot, then the sock. You check your foot. Still whole. You reach for the dry socks. You slide one on, then the other. Heaven. Warmth. Dryness. Mercy. You close your eyes. You don't sleep, but you rest. Outside, the wind stirs the leaves. A low rumble in the distance. Thunder. Or aircraft. Hard to say. The air feels charged, like something's coming, but not yet. Not for now. Now it's just you, and dry socks, and silence. Section 9. The hut is falling apart, but for now, it holds. The wind creeps through its seams in slow, thoughtful drafts. You sit with your back against a splintered wall and feel it breathe with you. The place smells like smoke that forgot why it was burning, like wet wood and old memories, like quiet. You glance up and catch a spider tracing a line across the ceiling. It's big, bigger than any spider back home, but it moves slowly without concern, as if this has always been its space and you're just borrowing it for a moment. You don't mind. It's not the worst roommate you've had this week. Jenkins lies on his back, one arm across his face. His boot is off too. His feet look worse than yours, but not by much. You both know the ritual. Pull socks off dry feet. Rotate, inspect, replace. A boring miracle performed daily. The sergeant stands near the doorway, silhouetted against the green beyond. He doesn't talk, just watches. He's always watching. He's not much older than the rest of you, but the lines in his face say otherwise. You wonder if he even remembers what silence feels like when it's not full of warning. A fly lands on your knee. You flick it away gently. No sudden moves. No need. Not now. You reach into your pack and pull out the letter again. The edges are soft from handling the ink, starting to blur at the corners. You don't read it, just hold it. Press it flat against your palm, like you could absorb it through skin, alone. Someone outside coughs. Not urgent, just life. You hear footsteps. A child. No, probably not, but maybe. Sometimes the villagers pass nearby. They don't speak to you. Just stare. Silent. Unreadable. Their eyes older than yours will ever be. Historians still argue whether local civilians viewed American troops with fear, pity, hatred, or just resignation. You're not sure it matters anymore. Most of them don't look at you like a person, more like a storm cloud, inconvenient, unpredictable, hopefully temporary. A few days ago, a little girl ran out of a hut and handed someone in your squad a flower. No words, just the flower. He put it in his helmet. A few hours later, he stepped on a mine. The flower survived. He didn't. You don't think about that anymore. Fun fact: American forces sometimes traded candy and soap for information. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it backfired. Sometimes they just gave it away because humanity doesn't always need a reason. The sergeant says, "Time." You sigh. Of course it's time. You slip the letter back into its plastic sleeve, slide it deep into your pack. You hesitate, then keep the dry socks on. A gamble, but you need this win, even if it's small. The squad regroups outside. You fall into place. The sky has shifted while you rested. The clouds hang lower now. The light is amber and heavy, like the air before a storm. The jungle waits. You step back into it. The path this time is barely visible. Vines crisscross your boots. Leaves slap your arms. The smell of moisture thickens. Rain is coming. You can feel it in your teeth. You move quietly. The forest here feels ancient, older than the war, older than language. You want to whisper, but you don't know what you'd say. A distant rumble, definitely thunder this time. You pick up the pace slightly. The sergeant doesn't stop you. No one wants to be caught without cover. You pass a series of low mounds, overgrown but unnaturally shaped. Someone whispers bunkers, but no one investigates. You don't poke old wounds. Your foot lands on something hollow. You freeze. A canteen. Rusted. Empty. You move on. You try not to think about who last held it. Jenkins asks how long until camp. The lieutenant says nothing. The sergeant says, soon, which means not soon. The sky darkens. Raindrops start to fall, big, slow, deliberate. One hits the back of your neck like a cold finger. You shiver, then more. Within seconds, it's pouring. You don't run. You just walk. Running makes noise. Running makes mud. The rain is warm. You tilt your head back and let it hit your face. You close your eyes for 3 steps. The world becomes sound, leaves, rain, breath, nothing else. When you open your eyes again, the path has turned into a shallow stream. Your boots squish. Your dry socks are not dry anymore. You sigh, but softly, because somehow you knew it would happen. You reach into your pack for your poncho. It sticks. It's wet already. You pull it over your head and feel it cling to your skin like regret. The wind picks up. Your helmet drips. Your fingers wrinkle. Jenkins slips again. Doesn't get up right away. The sergeant helps him. You keep walking. You spot something bright up ahead. A splash of color. You tense. It's just a red scarf, tangled in a branch. You don't touch it. The squad fans out slightly, stepping carefully over fallen branches, slick with moss. And memory, you look down and see a boot print. Fresh. Not yours. Not Jenkins. You say nothing. The rain muffles the world. You press on. Because what else is there to do? You keep moving and moving and moving until the rain becomes background. And the socks don't matter. And even the letter fades. Until it's just steps. And jungle. And breath. Section 10. The rain eases as the sun begins its slow descent, though calling it sun feels generous. You haven't seen its full face in days, just hints, shadows, color shifts, faint light, bleeding through green. But it's enough to know the day is finally winding down. You count that as a small win. You're soaked through, but not cold. The air is still thick, still warm, like a wet blanket. Someone forgot to wring out. Your shirt clings to your ribs, your pants sag just enough to irritate, and your boots squelch with every step like they've decided to protest every movement. You walk anyway. The squad is quieter now. Everyone's head down, minds retreating inward. You know this rhythm. It's the slow motion trudge of late day fatigue where muscles move from habit and thoughts coil into themselves like snakes in corners. You like this part in a way. Nobody talks. Nobody jokes. Everyone just survives. You think about food again. Not real food. Just the idea of it. Bread. Soup. Eggs cooked the way you like them. You remember her making pancakes once in Sock's hair. Messy, humming something off-key. The image lands soft. Doesn't hurt this time. You step around a fallen branch and start humming again. Not loud. Just enough for your own ears. Jenkins joins in. You harmonize badly. It's fine. Ahead, the trail opens slightly. Not much. Just enough to see the remains of an old outpost, concrete blocks moss-covered. Barrels a twisted piece of rebar, jutting from the ground like an antenna for ghosts. You pause. This place isn't on the map. The sergeant signals a halt. You crouch low, weapon raised, breath shallow. Nothing stirs, just vines reclaiming structure, leaves curling over rusted surfaces. Time doing what time always does. Historians still argue whether abandoned American outposts were more often dismantled by retreating troops or simply swallowed whole by the jungle. You'd believe either. This place looks like it was never meant to be remembered. The sergeant sends Jenkins and another guy forward to sweep. You wait. You chew a stick of gum you didn't know you still had. It tastes like old mint and pocket lint. The sweep comes back clean. You move in. The outpost is barely a skeleton. One half wall, a broken radio console, what might have once been a cot. You poke at the floor with your boot. The concrete cracks slightly. You sit anyway. Because sitting beats standing, always. You pull off your helmet and let your scalp breathe. Your hair is flat, damp, irritated. You scratch absently and stare into the trees. It's nearly evening now. The light fades from gold to something closer to copper. Everything glows like a memory. Jenkins opens a ration pack. He offers you a spoonful of beans. You accept. They taste like history. Someone asks the lieutenant if this is camp for the night. He shrugs, which probably means yes. You unpack slowly. You pull out the tarp, the pole, the cord, the same ritual. You start setting up. Your fingers move on autopilot. Knot, tuck, loop, pull, done. Your shelter is crooked, but it stands. You sit again, and this time you smile. Because despite everything, you've made it to evening. That counts. Fun fact, some soldiers kept evening journals, just a few lines a night, listing the things that hadn't gone wrong, didn't get shot, ate a full meal, still have both socks. Perspective, the only luxury no one could confiscate. You take off one boot, then the other. You wring out the socks. Not dry, not new, but they did their job. You change back to the first pair, now drier than the second. Balance. You lean back against a block of stone and let your eyes rest. The jungle softens. The sounds lower their pitch. The birds switch shifts. You breathe deeper. You watch the sky shift between colors you can't name. You think of her again, not what she's doing now, but how she laughed. That little pause before the sound. You mimic it, just once, to hear it in the air. The sergeant starts making rounds, checking shelters, counting heads, muttering. You nod when he passes. He doesn't speak. He never does at this hour. You open your last ration, peanut butter, 2 crackers, 1 smear. You eat slowly, like it's steak. Jenkins sits near you. He doesn't talk either, but his presence is warm, like fire without flame. You lean back, and for a few seconds, you pretend. You pretend you're home, in a backyard, with trees, and friends, and a sky not layered in warnings. You hear laughter, not your own, not Jenkins. Further out, maybe real, maybe not. You don't investigate. The air is cooling, but it's soft now, not cruel. The wind brushes your cheek, like fingers, like memory. You stay still because stillness is rare, and stillness is peace, even if it's borrowed. You close your eyes, just for a second, just to listen better, to feel better, to be better. The jungle does not protest. Section 11. You don't remember falling asleep, but you must have. Because when you open your eyes, the light is different again. Bluer, dimmer, edges gone soft. The kind of dusk that doesn't announce itself, just slips in and settles across the camp like a quiet decision. You blink, shift slightly. Everything cracks. Your shoulders, your back, your neck. You're sore in places you forgot had muscles. Your shelter held up through the nap. A small mercy. You sit up slowly. Your feet tingle from bad circulation, but they're still attached. You count that as a win. Jenkins is already up, boiling water in a dented tin cup over a tiny flame. The smoke curls lazily, mixing with the jungle mist. It smells like rust and burnt nothing. He nods at you. You nod back. No one talks much now. Not unless they have to. The hours before true night are delicate, like a thread you don't want to pull too hard. Break the silence and something might hear, or worse, everything might hear. You stretch your legs and check your pack. One more cracker, half a stick of gum. You chew the gum. You always do at nightfall. It helps you remember what mint tastes like, even if it's just a ghost of a flavor now. Your dry socks are officially damp again, but not ruined. You rub your feet, talk to them softly in your head. Tell them to hold on a little longer. The lieutenant walks past mumbling about watch rotations. You catch your slot second shift. Not ideal. You were hoping for third right before sunrise, the quietest one. But second is better than first. First always feels like punishment. Historians still argue whether watch rotations in field camps were based on strategy or favoritism. You've seen both. Sometimes it's about who's freshest. Sometimes it's about who the sergeant's mad at. You sigh. You weren't chosen for anything, which means neutral. You'll take it. The jungle makes a new sound. Deeper now. A low hum. Frogs, probably. Maybe birds. Maybe something else. You stopped checking the guidebook a long time ago. Jenkins hands you half a cup of warm water. You sip it like tea, like luxury. You close your eyes while it slides down your throat. It's the best thing you've tasted all day, which isn't saying much, but still. You hear someone quietly singing 2 shelters over. Something old, a hymn maybe, or a folk song. It's hard to tell when the words don't matter, just the tone. The tone is soft, kind. It makes your chest feel warm. You lie back down, staring up through your tarp at the slivers of sky. The stars aren't out yet, just that in-between glow where the sky can't decide. You like this time. It feels suspended, like the jungle's holding its breath. Fun fact, during the war, soldiers often used this window between day and night to write letters, patch gear, or just think without interruption. Not because it was quiet, but because it felt like the least dangerous moment to remember you were human. You scratch at a bite on your arm. The bugs are always active at dusk. You slap another off your neck and mutter thanks to no one in particular. Then the rain starts again, soft this time. Barely a whisper, just a tapping on your shelter roof, like someone gently knocking, asking permission to come in. You smile. It's the polite kind of rain. You watch it bead and roll off the edge of your tarp onto the jungle floor. The droplets fall into old puddles and vanish without sound. Jenkins zips up his poncho. You do the same. You adjust your position, prepping for a short rest before your watch. Your weapon lies beside you, close, but not touching. You pull the letter out again, just to hold, not to read. The ink's still there, still hers. You close your eyes, imagining her voice, not what she'd say, just how she'd say it. That slight upward lilt at the end of questions. That pause before teasing you. You hear it perfectly. You don't cry. You just breathe slower. The sergeant calls your name. Time for watch. You nod even if he can't see you. You sit up. Helmet on. Pack closed. Weapon checked. You move to the edge of camp, into your assigned corner of darkness. The ground here is soft, wet. You crouch low, rifle across your knees, eyes open, ears sharper. You hear it all now. The jungle's whisper, the bugs' gossip, the steady breath of your squad mates sleeping behind you. You scan left, right, nothing. You settle into the rhythm. Eyes move, hands steady, heartbeat loud, then soft, then just present. You wait and listen and keep everyone safe. That's your job now. That's enough. Section 12. You don't speak during watch. No one does. Your job is to be there, not think, not talk, just scan, just exist. You sit with your back to a wide tree trunk, rough bark pressing into your spine like a reminder to stay awake. The rain has stopped again, but the air is even heavier now, like the sky is draped in wet wool. Your eyes adjust, slowly. Shapes begin to form in the darkness, leaves roots, vague outlines of your squad's shelters. You count them. 1, 2, 3, all in place. You check the path. Still empty. You check the trees. Still still. Then you hear it. Not loud. Not close. Just there. A sound like something moving through grass. You freeze. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. The sound fades. Might have been an animal. Might have been your imagination. Historians still argue whether night patrol hallucinations were mostly exhaustion or a side effect of jungle acoustics. Either way, your body always reacts the same. Tension in your neck. Weight in your chest. You grip your rifle tighter and try not to think. You blink slowly. Then again. You count to 10. Twice. Nothing changes. You're still here. You shift slightly, easing pressure on your knees. The damp has settled into your bones like old guilt. A mosquito lands on your hand. You let it. No point swatting. There's always another one waiting. You've made peace with small losses. You glance up at the sky. No stars tonight, just a pale haze. You wonder what time it is. Your watch fogged up an hour ago. You don't check. Time moves differently here. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, often both at once. You think of home again. Not a person, not a place, just the idea. A closed door, a warm hallway, silence that isn't filled with tension. You remember what clean laundry smells like. You almost laugh. Then a voice, low, behind you. Not enemy, just Jenkins. He's on the next shift. You nod. He nods back. He crouches beside you, and for a moment the two of you share the weight of the darkness. You don't say much, just the essentials. Quiet. Yeah. He chews gum, offers you a piece. You accept. You stand slowly. Bones creak. Knees mutter. You stretch. A quiet groan escapes your throat. You wince. Jenkins smirks. You shuffle back to your tarp, every step deliberate. You lie down, the gum still fresh in your mouth. You stare up, still no stars. But the clouds are moving now. That helps. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to rest, to listen from the inside. You hear someone else turning over, someone snoring faintly, someone whispering. Could be a prayer, could be nonsense. You smile into the dark. You think of school, a locker you never cleaned, a hallway you always ran through. You think of sunlight on sidewalks. You think of hands held under bleachers. You think of everything that felt urgent back then. None of it matters here, but all of it comforts. You roll to your side. Your dry socks are damp again. You don't mind. They did their best. You press your hand against your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Still steady. Still strong. You breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. You say nothing. You think nothing. You just are. Fun fact, some soldiers learn to slow their heart rate during sleep. Not from training, from habit, from necessity, from a need to be still in a world that wasn't. You feel yours slow now. Beat, pause, beat, pause. You're not asleep, but you're close, closer than you've been in days. The wind shifts, a leaf drifts down. You hear it land, so soft, so gentle. You let go of your shoulders, let go of your teeth, let go of your thoughts. You count the sounds. One bird, one branch creak, one breath, another. You forget the rain. You forget the mud. You forget your name. And finally, you sleep. Section 13. You wake to a sound that isn't part of the usual jungle symphony. Not birds, not wind. Something mechanical distant, but rising. It buzzes through the mist like a memory you didn't expect. Helicopter. Huey. Coming fast. You sit up too quickly. Your spine protests. Your eyes sting. Jenkins is already crouched near his shelter, scanning the sky. You crawl out, boots, squishing weapon in hand, just in case. Always, just in case. The trees above shift slightly, pushed by the incoming turbulence. Leaves dance. Dust lifts. The sound grows louder. You squint. There, between the branches, that dull green silhouette, blades chopping the dawn like a dull knife. It circles once, then again, then it's gone. No landing, no flare, no message, just noise, then silence. You lower your weapon. Jenkins says nothing. Neither do you. Historians still argue whether such flyovers were intentional shows of presence or random recons. You've stopped wondering. You've started believing the war has a mind of its own. Sometimes it visits, sometimes it doesn't. You gather your things slowly. Your shelter comes down in seconds. Fold, shake, stuff. Your body moves without input now. Routines baked into your bones. Your socks are soaked. You change them, not because it helps, but because it reminds you that you still get to choose something. Small power, quiet defiance. You check your rations. Last bar. You eat half. Save the rest. Someone nearby is humming again. Same tune as yesterday. Jenkins joins in. You tap your boot to the rhythm. Together, you make a terrible band. But no one tells you to stop. The sergeant calls out, briefing in 5. You groan quietly. Jenkins groans louder. You laugh. Real laugh. Brief. Small. Real. You join the group. The map is filthy. The lieutenant points at nothing in particular. Patrol here, he says. You nod. No one asks questions anymore. Not because they understand, but because they know questions don't change anything. You sling your pack. It sticks to your back, your skin already sweating. The day has begun. Again, you march. Same direction, different trees, same mud, different shape. Your feet find the path, or make it. You're not sure anymore. You hear the bugs wake up. The jungle stretches, yawns, begins its daily routine. You do too. Your head down, eyes scanning, hands ready, back aching, legs moving. You cross a small stream. The water's cool. You resist the urge to dunk your face. Too exposed, too loud. You kneel, splash a little on your wrists. It helps. The guy behind you does the same. You don't speak, but the rhythm between you is solid, a kind of jungle language. You follow the line, past a fallen tree, past a half-buried metal canister, past something that might have been a helmet once. You step over it. You don't stop. You pass a small clearing where the grass is grown in perfect lines, like someone planted it with care. You pause, stare, then move on. Time moves strangely. You stop keeping track. Instead, you measure the day in footsteps, in sips, in dry socks, in songs half-hummed and never finished. You think about lunch, which is just a word now, not a meal. Maybe beans, maybe rice, maybe a broken cracker from someone else's stash. You'll eat it. You always do. Fun fact, most rations weren't designed for flavor, just fuel. But sometimes you'd find a packet with peanut butter, or raisins, or coffee, and it felt like a care package from the universe. You crest a ridge. The view stuns you, not because it's beautiful, but because it's wide. Space, horizon, a valley below mist, curling like smoke over the canopy. You take a breath, not because it helps, but because it's something to do. You smell rain. It's coming again. You keep moving. The trail descends. Slick, uneven. Your boots slip more than once. You laugh the third time. Jenkins curses the fifth. The sergeant barks something half-hearted. You ignore it. At the bottom you rest. Just a few minutes. Enough to drink. Enough to adjust your straps. Enough to check your photo. Still dry. Still smiling. You whisper to it. Just a word. She doesn't answer. But that's okay. The jungle does. with wind and heat and a single flower blooming from a rock, bright red, like a warning or a promise. You stare at it for too long. Jenkins taps your shoulder. Time to go. You follow, always forward, because what else is there? Not back, not here, just onward. Section 14. The path curves sharply now, cutting between dense brush and thick tree trunks, where the roots twist like sleeping animals. You're moving faster than usual, not running, not hurried, but with just enough momentum that it feels like someone wants this part over with. Maybe it's the lieutenant. Maybe it's the jungle. You don't ask. The footing is rough, uneven. Rocks, hidden beneath moss holes disguised by leaves. You nearly twist your ankle twice. Jenkins doesn't notice. He's too busy swatting at flies that refuse to obey the laws of physics or personal space. The rain starts again, soft at first, then stronger. A steady drumbeat on the leaves above, cascading in miniature rivers down your helmet, soaking through the back of your shirt. You don't bother with the poncho. It's too hot. Better to be wet and breathing than dry and cooking in your own sweat. The squad pushes through a narrow stretch where the trees are so close you can feel their bark scrape against your sleeves. It smells like mold and rot and something you try not to name. The forest here is older, maybe untouched, since before the war. Some places feel like they remember too much. You step into a small clearing, ankle deep in water, where the ground has collapsed inward. Maybe a bomb crater, maybe erosion. In the center is a half-sunken metal drum with no markings. You stop. Jenkins stops. The others circle wide. No one says a word. Historians still debate the use of abandoned chemical drums in non-combat zones. Some say accidental. Some say strategic. You believe neither. You believe it's just another leftover, like the wrappers, the casings, the ghosts. You pass the drum. Don't look back. The lieutenant raises a hand. Stop. Everyone freezes. A sound faint but wrong. Not animal. Not wind. Metal on stone. A distant voice, no one moves. The jungle waits with you. You stay still long enough to count your own heartbeats. Then the sergeant gestures again. Forward. You walk. Slower now. Every sound matters. Every breath is monitored. Jenkins taps your shoulder and points to his left, an old sandal half buried, child-sized, frayed. It looks ancient, or recent, or maybe both. You stare, then keep walking. You can't afford to carry every story. The trail leads to an overgrown trail fork. No signs, just footprints in the mud, smeared and shallow. You take the left path as instructed, not because it feels right, but because it's what you were told. The trees thin, slightly enough to let light in. The rain slows. You see another clearing ahead. A structure. Wooden. Low-roofed. Covered in vines. You approach with caution. It could be anything. A storehouse. A trap. A home. You don't raise your weapon. Not yet. You've learned to wait. Jenkins steps in first. The floor creaks. Nothing collapses. You follow. Inside it's dark, dusty. The air is thick. There's a table still standing. A teapot. A rusted spoon. A photo on the wall, half faded. A man and a woman, unsmiling. You stare. Something about the way they look straight ahead, not at each other, makes you shiver. Fun fact, many rural homes in Vietnam kept ancestor photos displayed even after evacuations. It was tradition. It was comfort. Sometimes it was the only thing left. You sit on the floor. Jenkins does too. The others wait outside. You don't talk. There's nothing to say. You unwrap the last of your ration bar and break it in half. He takes it without looking. It tastes like cardboard and memory. You finish it. No crumbs wasted. The sergeant steps in and tells you to hold position, just until sundown. The route ahead is too thick to push before dark. You nod. You'd nod to anything right now. You lean back against the wall. It's damp. Everything is damp. You check your feet. Socks holding up, just barely. You press your heel, testing for blisters. Nothing new. That's good. You lie down and close your eyes. Just for a moment. Jenkins hums again. Same melody. Maybe he doesn't even know he's doing it. Outside, the birds are louder now. Dusk birds. The ones that sound like they're arguing. The ones that remind you of home. You think about your kitchen. A cabinet door that always stuck. The sound of cereal hitting a bowl. Dumb things. Soft things. Things that matter when nothing else does. The sky is fading to gray. Not quite night. Not quite safe. The sergeant paces. The lieutenant is writing something in a small notebook. Probably lies. Probably paperwork. You sit up and drink the last of your water. You wish it were cold. You wish for ice. You remember ice. You remember the sound it makes in glass. You miss that sound more than most people. You think maybe that means something. Someone outside sneezes. You flinch. Jenkins doesn't. He's asleep now, breathing slow. You cover him with your poncho. He doesn't stir. You check the photo again. Still dry. Still smiling. You tuck it back into the pouch closest to your chest. You lean back again and stare at the beams above. A spider moves across the wood. You watch it, wondering how long it's lived here, what it eats, if it's ever left. You envy it a little. Then you close your eyes. You rest. Because there's nothing else left to do. Section 15. Dark falls like a curtain. Someone forgot to raise again. 1 minute you're staring at the pale edges of wood grain on the wall, and the next, it's gone. The inside of the structure turns completely black. Not shadowy, not dim, just blank. Your eyes adjust, but there's nothing to adjust to. Just shape and sound and smell. Jenkins is still sleeping soft breaths, in soft breaths out. You're sitting now cross-legged, back aching against the wooden slats. The floor beneath you is cold and sticky with moisture. You can't tell if it's from the rain or from something older. You don't care. You stopped caring about wetness around day 10. Outside, the night insects begin their concert, louder than daytime, higher pitched, less polite. Somewhere in the darkness, something croaks long and low. Frog, maybe. Or not. The line between animals and monsters blurs after dark. You try not to think about it. The sergeant passes by the open doorway, once flashlight off boots, silent. He's checking the perimeters, doing his job. You nod even though he doesn't see. Just a small ritual. A signal between people who never needed to say much. You pull out your photo. Again. This time you let your fingers trace the lines of her face. You do it gently, slowly, like you're touching something alive. You mouth the name. Just her name. Just once. Then tuck it away before you get soft. Historians still argue whether personal items helped maintain sanity or made soldiers more vulnerable to emotional fatigue. You'd argue for both. The pain keeps you sharp. The comfort keeps you human. You need both. You lay down, not to sleep, just to shift, to rest your back. The wood creaks. The sound is too loud, too sudden. You wince. Jenkins stirs, but doesn't wake. You go still again. Your rifle lies across your lap. Your hand rests on it, fingers loose. Ready, but not tense. You count breaths, then sounds, then nothing. Your mind goes blank the way a battery dies. Not a crash, just a fade, then movement. Outside, a branch breaks. You freeze, every muscle locks. You hold your breath. The noise doesn't repeat. No footsteps, no voices. Just that single snap. You listen harder. Still nothing. You breathe again. Fun fact, some patrols reported phantom sounds in the early hours. Snaps, footsteps, whispers. None ever confirmed. Probably animals. Maybe nerves. Maybe ghosts. Doesn't matter. They all made you sweat the same. You adjust your legs. Your knees protest. Your boots are tight again. Too much walking. Not enough blood flow. You unlace one slightly. Better. The hut groans in the wind. The walls shift just enough to remind you it's not stable. You trust it anyway. Because tonight, it's yours. Jenkins mumbles something in his sleep. A name. You don't recognize it. He exhales sharply, then goes still. You think about waking him. You don't. Dreams are private out here. You sit again. Pull your knees to your chest. Wrap your arms around them, like when you were a kid. In the hallway, after a storm. You remember that hallway? You remember the blue light of the TV, the cereal bowl still full. You remember safety. This isn't that, but you pretend. You hum softly. A lullaby. Wrong words, right feeling. The jungle listens, doesn't answer. You close your eyes for a second. Open them again. Still dark. You count to 20. Then again. Then again. Nothing changes. You hear the rain return. Gentle at first, then stronger. It slaps the roof like slow applause. You look over at Jenkins. He's snoring now. You envy him. You shift closer to the wall where the wind doesn't bite as hard. You lie down. Again, this time you mean it. You breathe slower, longer, deeper. You think of the first letter you got out here. The paper smelled like laundry soap. The ink was blue. The last sentence said, "I hope you're getting rest." You laughed when you read that. You didn't then. You do now. Because it was kind and wrong, but mostly kind. You close your eyes again. Your body relaxes bit by bit. Your hands loosen. Your jaw unclenches. Your ribs don't ache as much. You let your weight sink into the floor. Let your mind blur. Let the night hold you. Because for now, it's the only thing that will. Section 16. You don't hear the sergeant come in. One moment it's just you, the dark, the sound of rain, and then he's there. He doesn't speak. He crouches near the entrance, listens to something only he can hear. You barely move. He's like a part of the building now, a shadow that smells like sweat and boot polish. You watch him rub his temple, squint into the black, then slip out again without a word. You wonder if he ever sleeps. Jenkins wakes with a grunt, rubs his eyes, mutters a question with no question in it. You shake your head. Doesn't matter. He pulls his poncho tighter, scratches his ankle, then starts looking through his pack. He pulls out a crumpled wrapper and flattens it on his knee. No food inside, just habit. You sit up. Your neck clicks like a busted hinge. Your mouth's dry. Your head's foggy. But you're upright and that counts. Jenkins tosses you the canteen. You drink. It's warm, slightly metallic, and exactly what you need. You nod. Thanks. He nods back. You poke your head out of the doorway. The rain has slowed to a drizzle. The trees drip like they're leaking secrets. Dawn is a rumor on the horizon. Not light yet, just less dark. That in-between place where the world resets itself in silence. The squad's starting to move. Quietly. Purposefully, you hear boots shifting straps, adjusting the occasional cough, swallowed quickly. Nobody wants to break the calm. It's not peace, but it's close enough. The lieutenant calls a short meeting. The map again. Always the map. He points with a pencil, draws a line, says something about a recon sweep. You don't listen too hard. You'll know what matters when the shouting starts. Historians still debate the effectiveness of small unit recon during the rainy season. Some argue it gave ground-level awareness. Others call it routine madness. You've seen both, usually on the same day. You pack up quickly, shelter down, socks checked, weapons slung, movements clean. You're fast now, not from training, but from repetition. Everything has its place. Every step has muscle memory behind it. Jenkins grumbles something about his back. You grunt. Sympathy, not solution. The trail out of camp is narrow. The kind that disappears behind you the second you pass. You lead for a while, boots squishing on wet roots, palms brushing leaves that slap back without apology. The jungle doesn't care about your mission. It only tolerates your presence. A bird calls in the distance. short, sharp, almost mocking. Jenkins says it sounds like it's laughing at you. You agree. Everything out here seems like it's in on the joke, except you. The path widens into a dry patch. Rare, blessed. You step carefully, not wanting to spook it like a wild animal. Your boots leave only the faintest impressions in the dirt. You smile a little. You feel light for 10 steps. Then the mud returns, greedy and familiar. You find yourself thinking about showers, not hot ones, just clean, just standing under falling water that doesn't smell like moss and memory. You remember the one in your grandma's house, how it always screeched when it turned on. You hated that sound. You'd trade a week's rations to hear it now. You stop when the sergeant lifts his hand. Everyone freezes. You hear it too, a low buzz, almost electric. Not bugs, not natural. A drone, a motor. It fades before you can place it, but you stay still for a minute longer, just in case. Then move again, forward, always forward. You cross a stream with water so clear it feels unreal. You pause long enough to fill your canteen. Jenkins does too. Neither of you drinks yet. You both know better. You pass an old sign nailed to a tree. The letters are faded, but the shape looks like a warning. You don't ask what it says. You wouldn't believe it anyway. Fun fact, many signs in rural zones were written in local dialects, foreign to both the locals and the soldiers. Warnings that went unread, messages that never arrived. You wonder how many were right. You reach a ridge just before the sun fully rises. You crest it, boots slipping on loose gravel, and look out over a valley choked with green. The mist lays heavy over the treetops like a sleeping animal. It's beautiful and terrible and endless. Jenkins lets out a long breath. You do the same. Not because it helps, but because you have to do something. You sit, briefly, not long enough to rest. Just long enough to say, I made it this far. You reach into your shirt pocket, touch the photo. Still there, still folded, still smiling. You tuck it back. Not today. Too early for hope. You eat the last bite of your ration bar. Jenkins offers you a piece of his. You shake your head. He shrugs. You adjust your helmet. Check your strap. Stand. One more valley. One more path. One more morning. Section 17. The descent into the valley is slow and uneven, like walking down the spine of something ancient. Each step is deliberate. Wet rock under boot. Roots that coil across the path like veins. You watch your footing because you have to. One wrong move, and you're sliding face first into the underbrush. Jenkins is behind you again, muttering about his knees. You don't respond. You're too focused on not falling. The jungle is louder down here, more alive, more humid. The trees lean closer together, their branches forming a canopy so tight it steals the light. The air beneath it turns sour, damp still. You feel sweat bead along your ribs before your shirt can soak it up. The rain has stopped, but everything drips anyway. You stopped hoping for dry a long time ago. Someone ahead calls halt. You freeze. Heart rate ticks upward. Jenkins's boot lands behind yours with a soft squish, then silence. You scan the trees, nothing obvious, no sounds but the ones you carry with you. A breath, a bird, the high hum of insects. The lieutenant signals for a leftward break in the brush. You duck and follow, stepping through vines and leaves so thick you forget what sky looks like. The trail disappears within 50 feet. Now it's just movement through green. Historians still argue whether this kind of terrain ever favored American patrols. On paper, yes, with maps, air cover, intel. But on foot, in the mud, in the heat, it's a different war entirely. You don't fight it. You just endure it. You pass a tree with scratch marks down the side. Not deep, just long, deliberate. Jenkins pauses, glances at it, then at you. You both keep walking. Your boots sink ankle deep twice. The second time you nearly leave one behind. You curse under your breath, reach down, and tug. The suction sound is grotesque. Jenkins grins. You don't. The squad regroups near a narrow creek, just enough water to be annoying. The crossing is awkward. Slippery stones, rotted logs. Everyone makes it, but no one looks graceful. You splash through cold water, sliding down your boots. Socks soaked again. You grimace, not because it hurts, because it's expected. You check your watch. It tells you nothing, just a scratched face and a second hand that sticks occasionally. You wear it because you always have. A shout from the front. You tense, then relax. Just a monkey, high in the branches, swinging across the canopy with a laugh that sounds too human. Jenkins calls it an insult. You agree. You move on. Fun fact, local guides used to say that monkeys could sense landmines. No one ever proved it, but the story stuck around. You don't trust monkeys. You don't trust stories. You trust your boots and the silence between footsteps. The trail rises again. Not high, just steep. You lean forward, plant each foot with care. Your thighs ache. Your breath quickens. You taste metal. You keep going. At the top, you pause to catch your breath. The others do too. Jenkins bends forward, hands on knees. You sip from your canteen, swirl the warm water, and try to forget how long it's been since something tasted clean. You glance behind. The path is already gone, swallowed by the jungle. You could turn around and never find your way back. You wonder how many others have. The lieutenant signals again, spread out. Move forward. You do. The next section is quieter, narrower. You walk single file, boots following boots' heads, low eyes scanning. You think about what you'll dream of tonight if you sleep. Maybe water, maybe silence, maybe something that doesn't chase. You pass a broken sandal on the path. No foot, no body, just the sandal. You don't pick it up. You hear Jenkins whisper something. A joke, maybe. You can't make out the words, but you chuckle anyway. It's better than nothing. You push aside a curtain of vines and step into a wide open space, a field or the memory of one. Overgrown, but flatter than anything you've seen all day. You scan the area. Low grass, no movement, no cover either. The sergeant signals halt. The lieutenant confers. You sit carefully. Your legs thank you. Your shoulders ache. You stretch. Something pops. You don't care. You eat the rest of your ration bar. Dry. Crumbly. Still it's food. You finish it. Jenkins hands you a slice of something that smells like chicken and tastes like old tape. You eat that too. You check your photo. Still dry. You think about writing a reply. You don't. You never do. Not because you have nothing to say, because you have too much. You lean back on your elbows and stare up at the sky. The light is gray, flat, featureless, no clouds, just colorless distance. You count to 20, then back, then again. Jenkins hums something familiar. You hum with him. It's badly in sync. It's badly. That's okay. The sergeant walks by, says nothing, just a glance. You nod. He nods. You close your eyes for 10 seconds. And when you open them, the field looks different, like it's been waiting. You stand, because rest is over, and the war hasn't ended. Not yet. Section 18. The field leads to another stretch of trail, if you can call it that. More like suggestion than path. Just enough flattened grass to pretend you know where you're going. You fall back into the line, second from the front, now boots thudding softly in the wet earth. Jenkins is behind you again, his steps syncopated with yours, like he's tapping out some invisible rhythm only he hears. You don't ask. You don't need to. The air thickens, again, always. It presses against your chest like hands moist and warm and full of something you can't name. Your shirt is soaked. Your socks are soaked. Your hands are pruned like old fruit. But you keep moving, because what else do you do? The day has shape, but no edges. Time doesn't pass, it stretches. You duck beneath a branch and almost walk straight into a spider web the size of your face. You stop just in time, blink at the spider in the middle, a black thing with legs too long, and sidestep. Jenkins doesn't. He curses waves. His arms shudders. You grin, just a little. The trees close in again. Not thick enough to block light, but enough to make you feel watched. You scan the underbrush as you go. Nothing stirs. That's what bothers you. Even the jungle has gone quiet. The sergeant raises a hand. Everyone freezes. You hear it too, a low thump, distant, but rhythmic. Not a chopper. Not thunder. Mortar. No one says it out loud, but you can tell by the way every shoulder tightens. Every boot digs a little deeper into the mud. You crouch. Wait. Listen. The sound fades. Maybe it was nothing, maybe not. Historians still debate how often soldiers heard phantom war battles that weren't there. sounds carried on wind from 100 miles away. You've heard them. You never know which ones are real until they aren't. You rise again. The march continues. The jungle gives way to a strange clearing, not empty, but organized. Cut logs in a square. Old fire pit. Abandoned, but not forgotten. The lieutenant signals a stop. You fan out weapons, low eyes, sharp. You approach one of the logs. Sit. The wood creaks. Still strong. You take off your helmet, rub your scalp. It feels like sandpaper. You wipe your forehead. New sweat replaces the old. Jenkins tosses you a canteen. You drink. It tastes like wet metal. But it's cold. Cold counts. You stretch your legs. Feel your knees pop. Your ankles. Crack your back whine. You lean back, let your eyes close for a second. When you open them, the sky's shifted again. Late afternoon now, or early evening, hard to tell. The sun hasn't been visible all day, but the color of the light has changed. Cooler, grayer. You think about dinner, which means rations, which means beige food that tastes like memory loss. You check your bag. 1 can left. You pull it out, turn it over in your hands. No label. You pop it open. Beans. Again. You eat slowly. Fun fact, some soldiers would swap ration parts like trading cards. Peanut butter was gold. Beans were currency. Anything with fruit was practically a bribe. You never got fruit. You share a few spoonfuls with Jenkins. He grimaces, but eats. He always does. The sergeant talks to the lieutenant. Their voices low, urgent. You catch a few words. Movement ridge. Fallback. You don't like any of them. The decision is made. You're moving again. No overnight. No pause. Just forward. Always forward. You pack quickly. Helmet on. Weapon ready. Boots tightened. You roll your shoulders. They pop like bubble wrap. The trail climbs now. A ridge. Steep. Muddy. You dig in use roots like rope, your fingers slick with effort. Jenkins slips once. You grab his arm. Pull. No words. Just motion. At the top, you pause. Not to rest. To look. And what you see is sky. Open. Wide. Clear. For the first time in days, you can see the horizon. You don't say anything. Neither does Jenkins. But for a moment, everything in you breathes out. The wind up here is clean, or close to it. You taste distance in it. Something beyond jungle, beyond mud, beyond this day. The lieutenant sets up a short hold. 10 minutes. You sit on a boulder and watch the sky shift from gray to something almost blue. You close your eyes. No dreams. Just stillness. Then movement. A bird overhead. You watch it for too long. Not because it's rare. Because it's free. You think about what freedom means out here. You don't come up with anything. You don't try too hard. The sergeant gives the signal. Time to go. You stand. Boots scrape rock, legs ache, but you move because that's what you do. That's what you always do. Section 19. The trail winds down from the ridge in tight switchbacks, each turn slick with moss and softened by old leaves. You step carefully, testing each foothold before committing your boots, scraping the slope, sliding slightly, even when you're sure they won't. Jenkins follows behind, muttering to himself, not loud enough to understand, just steady sound. You've both stopped trying to break the silence with real words. It's not that you don't have things to say. It's just that none of them would help. The trees begin to thin again, not disappearing, but spreading out, as if they've agreed to give each other breathing room. You feel it too, air moving more freely, light slanting in at an angle that suggests somewhere beyond all this, the sun still exists. You remember sunlight on pavement, the way it shimmered across parked cars. You think about traffic, about being annoyed at traffic. The memory almost makes you laugh. You come to a stretch of high grass and pause. It's the wrong kind of open, too still, too quiet, the kind of place that watches back. The lieutenant signals for a staggered line, weapons raised, eyes forward. You move through the grass like ghosts. Jenkins hums a single note, then stops. The wind answers soft and warm, brushing past your sleeves like a question you don't want to answer. Halfway through, you find bones. Not many, not fresh, half covered by dirt, scattered. Human, probably. Could have been a scout. Could have been someone lost. Could have been someone left behind. No one says anything. The lieutenant gives a glance. Not alarmed, just aware. You walk on. Historians still argue whether field remains were ever accurately accounted for. So many bodies never made it back. So many stories ended mid-sentence. You wonder what this man's last thought was. If he even knew what hit him. If he knew he wouldn't be found. The grass ends. The forest returns. You welcome it even with its closeness, its density. You'd rather be surrounded than exposed. You step under the branches and feel them fold back around you like curtains closing on a stage you never asked to stand on. You reach another stream, this one wide enough to matter. The current moves faster than you like. Jenkins tests the depth with a stick, waist high, maybe more. The sergeant sighs. You hear it. Everyone hears it. No bridge, no detour, just water. You step in. The shock is immediate. Cold against thighs, arms the inside of your boots. You push through, balancing with your rifle, raised your gear, pulled tight. You slip once. Catch yourself. Jenkins does the same. No one falls. You reach the far side, climb out. Boots heavier, socks ruined. But you made it. You wring out your sleeves, rub your hands, shake your legs one at a time like they're someone else's. The path continues. Because of course it does. You glance at your watch again. Still fogged. Still ticking. Time passes whether you see it or not. The jungle starts to open in small, cautious ways. A clearing here, a wider path there. You feel it changing, like it's letting you go. You think about camp, about what it means to stop, to sleep, to unpack for longer than 10 minutes. You think about warm food, maybe a radio, maybe a letter. You think about socks, dry ones. Fun fact, some units had sock rotation ceremonies where each man would trade out the driest pair for the wettest, making sure no one suffered alone. It wasn't regulation. It wasn't official. It was human. You join that ceremony right now. You walk. Jenkins trips, swears. You pull him up without comment. He nods. You pass an old marker on a tree. Carved letters, faded, not English. You trace it with your fingers just briefly, then move on. You feel a breeze, real breeze, not jungle wind, not just shifting air, but breeze from space, from openness, from something beyond trees. You smell smoke, faint, far, but real. The squad tightens, eyes sharp. The lieutenant raises a fist. Stop. You crouch. Wait. Listen. The smoke carries a hint of wood. Not burning plastic, not ammo. Just fire, maybe cooking, maybe signal. You inch forward careful steps. Then you see it just the top of a roof, thatched and low. Structure. People unknown. The sergeant confers with the lieutenant. You hear pieces. Check it. Quiet. Fall back if needed. You're part of the group assigned to circle wide. You and Jenkins and 2 others. You move around the slope, eyes on the roof, rifles lowered but ready. You hear voices now. Not English, not loud. You signal. Pause. The sergeant waves off. Not a threat. You exhale. You hadn't realized you were holding your breath. You fall back to the trail. The squad regroups. The path curves again. The smell of smoke fades. You keep walking. Light changes. Darker again. Later. Jenkins checks his canteen. Empty. You hand him yours. He drinks. You finish what's left. Not much, but enough. You find a ridge. The sergeant calls stop. Camp here. You nod, because you were hoping, because you're exhausted, because even if it's temporary, you'll take it. You drop your pack. You sit. You pull off your boots. And once again, you check your socks. Section 20. You peel the socks off slowly like skin. They resist. Damp fabric clings to damp flesh. Your feet look worse than yesterday, pruned red around the edges, slightly raw between toes. But they're whole. No cuts. No new blisters. You flex them. The ache is dull, consistent. Familiar now. You rub them gently, slow circles with your thumbs. Not comfort. Maintenance. You reach for your last semi-dry pair. They're warm from being close to your body all day. You slip them on carefully. It feels like forgiveness. Around you, the squad settles into quiet motion. Tarps go up. Boots come off. Fires are banned tonight, so everyone works with flashlights dimmed to a whisper. The jungle leans in, but not aggressively. More like curiosity now. Like it's watching, but not deciding. Jenkins sets his gear down beside you and groans as he drops into a cross-legged sprawl. His knees crack like rifle bolts. He grins at you, then digs through his bag. He pulls out a package of dried meat, something salty and unidentifiable. He tears off a piece and hands it over. You take it. No words. It's your version of grace. You chew in silence. The meat is tough, chewy sticks to your teeth. You swallow it dry. It settles in your stomach like a rock, and that's fine. Hunger is a vague memory now. You eat because that's what the body expects, not because you want to. The sergeant walks past. He nods. No words. The nod means you did your part, lived another day, held your weight. That's enough. The night air is cooler than before, almost dry. A breeze floats through the trees, brushes your face, lifts your hair slightly. It smells like earth and leaves and distant water. It smells like a place that was here long before you and will be long after. You lean back against your pack. Let your eyes close for a moment. Let your shoulders drop. Your body is bone tired, but you're not asleep yet. You're resting in layers. You hear someone humming again. Not Jenkins this time. Someone further off. You recognize the tune. Something from home. A lullaby. It slides into your head and settles there, not intrusive, just gentle. You check the photo one last time. Edges curled, colors faded, but the smile is still there. She looks at you like she knows, like she's waiting. You tuck it back. Fun fact, more than 2 billion letters were sent during the Vietnam War. Some were read dozens of times until the paper tore. Some were never delivered. You've read yours so often you can recite it. You don't need the paper anymore. But you keep it anyway. The jungle quiets down. The birds sleep. The frogs sing. The wind slips between tree trunks like smoke. You lie down, fully now. Back flat arms, crossed loosely over your chest. The tarp above you rustles gently. You listen to it flap once, then again, then nothing. You count your breaths. In, out, again. You release the tension in your jaw, your fingers, your shoulders, your toes. Each part of you remembers that it belongs to you. Each part asks to rest. You let it. Jenkins is already asleep. You can tell by the way he breathes. Slow, rhythmic, safe. You envy him, but only slightly. You're close. Closer than you've been. You hear the wind moving through tall grass. You hear a drip of water from a high branch. You hear your own heartbeat. And then you feel nothing. Just weight, warmth, release. The ground holds you. The air wraps around you. Your thoughts drift, scatter, soften. You think of home again. But it doesn't hurt this time. You smile, eyes closed, breath steady. The jungle doesn't argue. It lets you rest because even it knows you earned this. And now the day is done. The boots are off. The rifle's clean. The fire never started, but the warmth came anyway. You've crossed valleys, climbed ridges, soaked through 3 times over. And still you're here, still breathing, still moving, still waiting for that moment when the body loosens and the world slips gently away. Let the noise fall away now. Let the insects hum without your attention. Let the wind sing its soft, aimless tune through the leaves. There's nothing left to do tonight. No formations, no orders, no maps. Just rest. Just the slow, steady slide into sleep. Your eyes are heavier now, the sounds more distant. You feel the weight of your own body in a good way, in a grounded, anchored way. You are safe. You are still. You are for this moment nothing more than breath and memory and quiet skin pressed into quiet earth. So, stay here a while longer. Let the night carry you. Let your mind walk one more path this time. One that leads nowhere, that asks nothing, that simply exists. Let the dreams come if they want. Or not. That's fine too. You've done enough. You've done more than enough. Rest now, soldier.